success. All right. The commercial's out of the way, Andrew. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. And Andrew, well, let me tell the listeners who may not know of Andrew. Andrew is the proprietor of localseoguide.com, the search engine optimization and marketing resource for companies interested in local search. And there's more and more interest inside a local search. That's for darn sure. And you've got, Andrew, you got 15 years of experience in TV and internet, specializing in search engine optimization, local search, fundraising, business development, and strategy. And you got some major clients out there, major media CEOs and social media networks. And you also actually were the GM of NBC.com back in 2000, weren't you?
Yeah, I like to say I ran NBC.com back when it was weird to see URLs on television.
See?
Yeah. So, I did a lot of the early, hey, go, watch this show and go online and do this thing, and we'll do something on TV.
AOL keyword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also ran the product development business for InsiderPages.com, a local search startup funded by Sequoia, right? SoftBank and Ideal Lab. And you actually got that site over 3 million unique visitors per month via SEO and the different partnerships that you had.
Yeah, that's actually how I got into SEO. We had this site that was basically a version of Yelp. We launched probably right around the same time as Yelp. And, we had a big Yellow Pages type site, and we needed to get we had no money, and we needed to get a lot of traffic. And I'd heard about this thing called SEO and didn't really know what it was, because when I was at NBC, we didn't care about Google. It was kind of an irrelevant thing, because so many people went to NBC.com. And so anyhow, I started trying to figure it out, and just by doing really simple things like updating the title tags and stuff, we went from very small amounts of traffic to millions almost overnight. So it was a pretty...
Those were the days.
We got very excited about testing and trying different techniques.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So, Andrew, give us a snapshot of your day now.
When we sold Insider Pages in 2006 to City Search, and I kind of accidentally started this company when I was having drinks with the head of the LA Times
I
website.
I love that you start companies with drinks. That's always a good sign.
And so what had happened at Insider Pages is we had gotten really good at SEO and gotten millions of people there every month. And then we redesigned the website, and I kind of didn't know what I didn't know. And we lost pretty much almost all the traffic overnight.
Whoa.
Because of a really stupid technical issue with one of the templates in the redesign. And it took me about 3 weeks to figure it out at the time, because I just was clueless. And so when I was meeting this guy at the LA Times, he mentioned he was redesigning his website, and I was like, stop, don't do it. And he ended up asking me to help him consult. And so they became my first SEO client.
Ah.
And at the time, I think there just weren't, most managers had never really had any experience with SEO, had never hired a consultant, didn't even know where to find one.
Right.
And so I had a pretty good network, and so pretty quickly word got around that I did SEO, and suddenly I was an SEO consultant. And
kind of happens that way sometimes, doesn't it?
Well, it happens. I don't know that it happens so much anymore. Maybe it does, but it was like the right time, right place kind of thing.
It did back then, yeah. I mean, we were kind of tripping over the concept of SEO, and there was a lot of web developers that tried to get on that bandwagon as well. Whenever the trail had been blazed by some of us early on, that this was actually a particular service that needed to be applied to websites, and all of a sudden there's the gold rush that started going.
Yeah, so I like to think I was in maybe the second or third generation of SEOs. The first guys were the guys in 1999
right.
who were ranking for credit card application and free Viagra and stuff with impunity.
we just used to do list memes back then.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so for several years I just ran an independent business pretty much, where it was just me and maybe someone to do my grunt work. And I had a ton of clients, some of the biggest sites in the world, lots of startups, just anybody who needed help. And then about 4 years ago, I decided, it's time to get kind of serious. And so I had this great brand in Local. I've done a lot of work on Yellow Pages sites and newspaper sites and things like that. And so I started hiring people to help us with multi-location. And so we've we've really grown our multi-location side of our business dramatically over the last
Absolutely. I mean, you're one of the top groups in the country that focus on that particular feature of local.
Well, I don't know about that. We're just another.
Yeah, you are. You know you are. Stop it.
Well, hey, Andrew, you actually know Doug. I'm sorry, but I'll just give that out to you.
And he's still talking to us.
Exactly. I was getting kind of scared whenever he showed up on Skype. He goes, "Hey, Doug, I didn't know you on the show," and then there was crickets.
Yeah.
No, there was a smiley face.
Oh, that's right. There was a smiley face.
So Doug and I met because I had an SEO client startup named Cha-Cha.com, which was a big question and answer site. And they were a totally non-local kind of thing, just a big, giant database of questions and answers. And they purported to have like user-generated answers and things like that, or they were expert-generated answers. And I had actually done an initial consult for them, and they changed their strategy right after I told them what to do, but they didn't change it to what I told them to do. They changed it to something totally different. Like a year or two went by, and then they hired me again when they decided to re-embrace SEO. And I can't remember how this happened, but at a certain point I went out to Carmel, Indiana, where they were, and walked into a conference room, and there was Doug. And they informed me, hey, we've got another SEO consultant, which is always funny when...
Oh, yeah, that's always a wonderful experience there.
And then, so, I had to quickly figure out whether this guy was going to try to knife me in the back or in the face or wherever. But in general, we've done a lot of work like that where we're kind of brought in for a second opinion, which is totally makes sense because I always think of these things as like kind of medical.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And so if someone tells you have stage 4 cancer, need chemotherapy, maybe you might want to get a second opinion. So Doug and I can't remember how long it lasted, but we were pretty much, it was funny. I think we were remarkably in alignment on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, don't do that. No, really, don't do that, I think is what we said a lot.
And they had a lot of, in what Andrew doesn't tell you is it was a boardroom full of SEO people. Like it was Andrew, me, and then, probably about 5 or 6 others.
Oh boy.
And I think the good thing that came out of it was, the SEO consultants would slowly disappear. Like, that gave bad advice, right. And it was like an island. People were just dropping, and the great thing about it was a painful thing for the company. I really liked Cha-Cha and what they were doing, and Scott Jones I think is a good guy. But the search algorithms were really working against them over time, and so I think the good thing was that Andrew and I were both constantly warning, constantly saying, hey, we're living on borrowed time here. We really need to make changes. We really need to. And infrastructure and business, they couldn't really make some of those dramatic changes. But what was good was eventually it was just me and Andrew.
Yeah. And I give a lot of credit to Scott Jones, the founder and CEO. I mean, he really... he embraced this stuff and really tried to right the ship. Yep. But I think that, I don't really want to go too deep into their details, but
sure.
Kind of a very, we see this a lot, especially with bigger websites, is you can paint yourself into a corner with SEO when you have a really complicated monster website that gets a lot of traffic, because there's no like, hey, just update your title tags and life will be better.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. It's more like, okay, we have some theories that may change the direction of this thing, but you're going to have to take a big risk to implement those theories, and there's no guarantee it's going to work. So big site SEO is really tricky.
No, you're absolutely right, and there's been a lot of mistakes made, and lessons learned over the decades now, right? The service has been around. It's almost 20 years old, almost. That's
gotcha.
No, just SEO and
SEO, yeah, probably. I guess people were doing it as early as I don't know, Yahoo sort of came to me
89, 90. Yeah, I kind of resemble that remark.
It's true.
Well, hey, that's a good story. That kind of shows you some of the backdrop that SEOs are utilized for. I mean, we come in as technicians as well as, I mean, metaphorically, some physicians, and we got to tell the bad news to the patient. And it's tough, and it's tough how the patient takes it. But have you noticed the acceptance of this type of prognosis or the diagnosis here? We've certainly have experienced a lot of clients that have been that we've inherited that have had poor SEO done to them, or even bad SEO or black hat SEO done to be trying to bolster their link value and post algorithm changes. I mean, they're coming in with bloody stumps, if not dead campaigns, asking, what in the world has happened to us. I think they're at least more apt to take other advice than and try to think that they know what's going on in this space. Don't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I like to say to our team, nobody really wants to be working with us, right? You're kind of grudging. There are very few clients who come to us who we categorize as athletes,
right?
Meaning they're like, we want to get better. We're already good and we want to get better,
right?
Those are great clients, but most of our clients are like, we're having a problem and we don't know what else to do. So
they're spouting blood out of their neck.
Yeah, and so no one wants to be in the doctor's office,
right? Absolutely.
And we see our share of sites that are gotten bad service, or they've it's not that they've gotten bad service, is that the technique that worked 2 years ago doesn't work anymore.
Correct.
Right?
Exactly.
And so we see that, but I'd say by far the majority of what we see is more just like, this stuff is tricky and there's no simple answer, and it's you've got to I was working with here, I'll give you a hot off the presses great example of this. We have so an hour ago I was on the phone with a client where they've had one URL that makes them a ton of money, and in January they've had issues with this URL over the last 2 years. It just keeps bouncing in and out, up and down, and in January it totally lost rankings for everything, no rhyme or reason, and we did all the link disavowals and things we could think of doing.
Right. We
tried a billion different tests on adding new pages to the site, all these different things.
Right.
And 2 weeks ago, it's for a very specific keyword. 2 weeks ago, we said, hey, why don't we let's take that keyword out of the title and H1 of that URL, just see what happens. And so basically, we published a URL that has no title and no H1, and within 5 days, it was ranking really well for super valuable keywords.
Same URL, but you've changed the slug, right?
No, not even that we changed it. It's like we removed the keywords it's targeting.
Roger. Okay. Yeah, I understand.
And it ranks better for those keywords.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And so this is an example of what I think is happening is Google manually did something to the site that they forgot to undo a million years ago. And an update just happened to trigger this thing, or does Google have a broken algorithm, which is 9 times out of 10 the answer? Yeah. And so how do you deal with that? How does a business owner do you deal with that? I can barely deal with it as somebody who does this all day long. I sent this around to our teams, and I'm like, look at this. This is where our job is it's usually to have the answer, but most times we're not going to have the answer. Our job is to always be trying to find the answer.
Yep, and always testing. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great example of the intermittency, and we try to look at this as a science and a series of methods that can generate predictability, but you've got an unpredictable target, and as much as we see, okay, this worked with this, and this. Apply it to this particular client, and you've got flat lines, right? It's difficult to get on the other side of that and then really deconstruct everything that could possibly be affecting that. So there's a bit of art, but there's a heck of a lot of science, and I'm just very happy that we have a legitimate service now that is actually being embraced by companies that previously were getting gun shy because of snake oil salesmen that were out there in SEO. There's literal good companies that are doing this on a regular basis, and your company obviously is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be. We're very transparent with our clients about what we're doing and what we know, and it's kind of the best we can do. We generally do have great results for clients, but we have our fair share of really tough cases too, and you just have to be straight. And what we like to say is, hey, you could buy a Super Bowl ad and have no idea if it's going to work or not either, right?
Right.
It's a marketing channel, what we see is over time, if you make the right investments, this stuff generally works.
Isn't that interesting? Is that you're right? Is that SEO doesn't get to the same fairness of expectation as other types of marketing medium that are hit or miss based on triangulation of demographics and this, that, and the other. There's such an expectation that it better work. It's gonna work. And the companies come to you with this false sense of, hey, you just fix this and it's going to jump into it. Well, they don't have any idea of the competition nor any of the baggage that they've got, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's the
right. Well, but I don't want to make excuses for our industry, right?
Of course,
now we sound like we're kind of like sandbagging it. I just want to be like, this is how it works,
right?
And so here's what we've seen work in the past. We're going to make a certain investment with you right now to get you there. And by the way, as we go along, we're going to have to readjust our expectations based on what we see, because every time we go into the market, it's different.
No, you're absolutely right. Oh, well, hey, I want to jump into another topic here real quick. And we actually discussed Yext on our last show. And you know what? We're not going to ask you to defend some vocal.
Did you have Darren on?
Yeah, we had Darren Shaw on. Absolutely.
He's making a little cottage industry out of his opinions on Yext.
Yes, he is. Well, he was very, very passionate, and you know what? What I want to really talk to you about is actually you just did an article on Search Engine Land talking about having the right local SEO tools, right?
Yeah, I did.
And it was a sharp article. Would you actually mind? I mean, unless you want to talk about Yext. Yext is part of your listing, but I mean, at the same time, I do think that Yext does get a bit of bad hype regularly. I hadn't been a fan of Yext in the past, but Yext is still sticking around. It's still turning some value out there. But you actually put together an entire list of tools, Yext being one of them. But there's a slew of tools. Would you mind diving into a couple of those tools?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So, I just kind of every month I have to write something for Search Engine Land, which gets to be a pain in the ass. And every month I'm like, oh, what am I going to write about this month? And so I was like, it'd be simple to write is like the stuff we use and why we use it.
Right.
So
we're going to send that to Danny.
Yeah. So I'll run through the quickly. Actually, so you could just type in Google Search Engine Land SEO local SEO tools, and the URL will come up. So the number one thing we use is Google, and when people start working at Local SEO Guide, one of the things we ask them to do is an audit without tools. Mm-hmm. And because when I started, there was no Google Webmaster Tools. There was Google Analytics, I guess, but there wasn't any kind of screaming frog. There was like Xeno Link Sleuth, which is the worst friggin' spider you can use.
You better believe it.
And there just wasn't anything. There were a couple of tools out there, but maybe Moz was out there, I guess, with some of the tools. And so I would just use Google, because you could pretty much get 90% of what you need by just searching in different ways in Google and looking at someone's website. So using Google in all its different ways is the best way to do SEO, because you can see how things are appearing, you can see how things are indexing. There's just on and on and on. A great way to quickly assess the health of a website. But then if you want to get more advanced, there's a tool called Screaming Frog, which I'm assuming everyone listening to this has already heard of.
Mm-hmm. They better have.
A really indispensable tool.
Yeah.
I wish I had built it, because the concept is so simple. It's just a client-based crawler, crawl on demand, and it's not perfect, but it's pretty great. We also use Majestic and Ahrefs for link graph analysis. I think all those tools are generally clunky and tough to use. Ahrefs has pretty good a UI, but But you need a couple of, if you want to get comprehensive, you need a couple of different tools to try to kind of bridge the gap, because none of them is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. You did mention cognitive SEO and link research tools, and we are huge fans of those tools, especially cognitive. There's been so much time and effort poured into that tool, and it can be a campaign tool in its own right. But from the spam side of things, and isolating the no-follow environments, isolating low impact and low value links, they really do have a great dashboard there.
Yeah, I'm a little bit, Christopher Semper will probably ping me up on Twitter now, but I'm a little down on link research tools because they are so damn expensive.
Yeah, they are.
And I feel like their usability, for the amount they charge, they should make their UI a lot better.
I agree, and I feel like the level of effort that I have to put in just to use them.
Yeah.
Because
you got to train it.
Well, and sometimes there's some low-hanging fruit that they just miss, and sometimes there's really complex ones that they hit. I've used those tools, and some of them are amazing, but I'd say they have like a 20% error rate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had a lot of false positives with link research tools. They're still a cool tool, but none of these tools are jack without human intervention.
Right.
And at a certain point, you're like, well, I can just download stuff from Webmaster Tools and kind of just manually look at that. Link research tools once said a link from the NewYorkTimes.com was a spam.
Yeah,
so,
I've seen those too.
SEM Rush.
But have you read New York Times lately? I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, they're probably like conservative companies, so they're like, of course it's spam. So SEM Rush is our favorite. I don't even know what you call them, but global analysis tool.
Yeah.
We also use Searchmetrics once in a while. Searchmetrics has a lot of similar kind of cool data. We're biased. Our favorite tool is one we developed in-house called Nap Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
It's a free extension that you can add to Chrome that very quickly lets you search for business listing information for a single business through Google and export the data. And so when we get an inbound prospect, like say this morning a remodeler called me, I immediately put his name, address, phone number data into Nap Hunter and hit go, and it within 5 seconds identified a bunch of NAP consistency issues. Again, it's a free tool. Just type Nap Hunter into Google and it's in the Chrome store. Really great little time saver.
You spell that?
NAP Hunter.
Okay.
Yeah. We also actually, I'm sorry, we didn't do this one. There's one listed, search Google by location bookmarklet. Google, as you may know, turned off the ability to search by location a while ago, which sucks for local SEO. And there's a real kludgy way you can try to get it, and this bookmarklet tries to make that faster. I've also, I didn't put it in here, but I should have. We developed a text-only cache bookmarklet where if you go to a URL and you want to see the text version of the cache in Google, you just click on it and it takes you right there. And you wouldn't think that's a big deal, but there are a lot of URLs that if you do a site colon and try to search for it, it won't show up as cached or indexed, and it really is. This tool it has a huge hit rate on finding it. If you go to localseoguide.com, and I believe in our tools section, it's listed there. It's a really great little thing that one of my team members, Mike Mitchell, whipped up in about 3 hours.
Oh wow! Excellent.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other tools. Just go look there on that post.
Yeah, you got WhiteSpark. We use WhiteSpark. That's always fun. It's a great citation finder. Moz Local, and you've talked a little bit about Moz Local. I mean, that's grown in value, I think, over the last 2 to 3 years. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't seem super. I guess they've improved the tool. We use them so the big problem with local SEO are the business data aggregators. So
right.
Axiom, Info Group, Newstar, Localese, and Factual.
Right.
They license their data to a lot of third parties, and their data is often fucked up. So they don't do a good job of solving the screwed up data problem, these aggregators.
Right.
We've done several tests where we've put new listings into the data aggregators, and they come out the other end all screwed up. So what Moz Local does is allow you to pretty cheaply hit all the data aggregators at once. There's no guarantee once Moz Local sends it over to the data aggregators that it'll get fixed. But at least there's no guarantee if you do it yourself. So it's just a faster way of doing it yourself. And most of these aggregators require scale to like have API access, and require you to pay them like a few $1,000 to get that.
Right.
So Moz Local for us is like just an efficient way. If we were managing like 100,000 locations, I'd probably do my own data aggregator deal.
Right.
But we're not at that scale at the moment.
Got it. But you really didn't cover any of the big data tools like BrightEdge or Conductor or Clarity. I know these things can be really cost prohibitive for smaller agencies or smaller businesses. Have you used any of those tools?
Yeah. So we run those tools for a select number of clients, usually the bigger clients. So like a 10 location business isn't going to use BrightEdge.
Right.
But we have several large national retailers that do, and they're fine. Those tools can be really helpful to quickly find answers about things or get kind of data and share reports. We found historically their value for local stuff has been limited,
right?
Because the local stuff is so granular. I mean, even Google doesn't have good, like in their keyword planner tool, doesn't have good data about local queries.
No, it does not. And and that was going to be my other question regarding local ranking tools. I think you got a bit of you're a bit bugged by some of those tools that are out there. I would concur. There's hit and miss scenarios with
they all
these
suck. Name one that's awesome. Like, so we use Bright Local mostly for local ranking tools, and I guess they have an okay tool. But there are a lot of things that could be a lot better, and the accuracy of them is all over the place.
Right.
So we generally try to, if a client asks for rank tracking, we will give it to them after trying to dissuade them that they really should not care.
And that's absolutely the coin of the realm now, is that if the clients are inside and looking for that trophy word positioning so much, they're looking at the wrong thing, because there's so many different devices, so many different platforms, so many different shifts and chains. And in fact, Google themselves say that any given moment you're being tested. So
there's that, but we're actually we're a lot simpler than that. So I always say, look, I'll run the report for you in month 1, and then I'm going to run it for you in month 2, and I'm going to guarantee you're not going to look at it in month 2, and in month 3 you're not even going to open up the email. So why are we wasting time?
I like it. It saves us a lot of time.
Yeah, 'cause I know you're not. You say you're interested, but you're not really interested.
Because your eyes are going to melt.
Exactly. And so anyhow.
No, very good, very good. Well, that's a great article. We're going to have a link on the Edge podcast show page regarding that. Hey, you published a 2016 local SEO ranking factors guide, and I wanted to see if we could dig into that for a moment in our next segment. Would that be all right with you?
That'd be fantastic.
Fantastic. All right. Hey, we're going to speak with Andrew a bit more. Hey, Andrew, you just published a 2016 local SEO guide, ranking factors guide, and you looked at 100-plus factors across 30,000 businesses, trying to figure out how local businesses can rank better in Google. Tell us about that study for a second.
Sure. So if you've been following local SEO for a few years, like I guess I have, historically, every year, there's been a survey published of practitioners where they're asked, well, what do you think is important? And how would you rank the different things you have to do? And I've participated in that survey probably, I think, since the beginning, and it's always a fun exercise to try to kind of quantify these things in our brains and on the survey. But about 6 months ago or so, Dan Leifson, who runs our local SEO division, he and I were kind of spitballing that, the survey is interesting, but it's missing data. There's no quantifiable way to measure this stuff, or no one's ever tried. And so we started thinking about, well, how can we do this? And Dan had this, I think, bubbling in the back of his mind for years that he wanted to do something like this. So we decided that I bet that we could go amass a bunch of data and do a statistical study of what correlated with positive local SEO rankings. And so we reached out to a company called Places Scout that we knew that had a lot of this data. They basically collect like 1 billion different variables on different businesses that rank well in Google. And then we reached out to the University of California at Irvine Statistics Department, because they're pretty well-regarded stats guys, and said, hey, can we, if we give you all this data, can you analyze it and tell us what's what? And they were really into it. So in June at the SMX Advanced show in Seattle, we published our initial set of findings. So the University of California guys got back to us with like a book. Right, I'm just like, here, we looked at every which way, and I'm not going to get into all the detail of the tau coefficients and things that they gave us.
Now, there's one level of tech that love SEO. There's a whole other level of tech that love data analysis.
Yeah, yeah.
And those guys are scary.
So we published it, and you can go to our site right now, localseoguide.com, and on the homepage there's a big juicy link to the findings of the study. And what we did was we published. It's kind of interesting in a way in that we didn't publish something like, here's the top 10 factors, because that's not the way the data presented itself. We more published, well, here's what correlates positively with ranking well in the local packs, and what doesn't, of all the things we looked at. Now, I should warn readers or listeners, it's not comprehensive, right? We're not Google. We couldn't see all the data.
Sure.
But what we could see, we measured. And the results were both surprising and not surprising, and kind of exciting and not exciting in a way. So what we found was link metrics, so backlinks, seem to correlate strongest with local rankings. So probably not a surprise, although backlinks are historically viewed as an organic ranking factor, meaning
correct.
Not the local results. But what happened was a few years ago, Google came out with this pigeon update, which they claimed, and a lot of SEOs claimed, started to merge its local algorithm with its organic algorithm. And so this kind of confirms it, that backlinks have become more prominent or are prominent. I mean, maybe they always were, and being a part of the organic algorithm, that would make sense. But we also saw some counterintuitive things. As an example, putting the city name in your title of your page doesn't correlate strongly with positive rankings. Historically, if you have read any how to rank well in local SEO post,
that was the first thing you did.
One of the first things it says to do. But that doesn't necessarily add up in this data. It also showed that for certain types of searches, having the keyword you're searching for in your business name enables you to rank better. The local pack, which kind of makes sense, but also shows why there's so much spam in the local pack, because all you have to do is create a fake business that's called Miami Beach Locksmiths.
Indianapolis SEO, for example. We have one of those that are floating around our little fishbowl as well, and it's just obnoxious.
My favorite example is we looked at Toolbar PageRank, which your listeners may know is this thing that Google used to publish as a thing that you could detect like what the page rank of a URL was. And they claimed years ago to stop looking at it because it was kind of meaningless. And then earlier this year, they claimed they deprecated it, meaning they're not supporting it at all.
Right.
But what our data showed is that Toolbar PageRank correlates strongly with positive rankings. And so what that means, what that said to me was that if links, it's basically a measure of backlinks. And so if this thing really hasn't been updated in years, yet it correlates positively with local ranking, and that means that there's a lot of old links that are supporting a lot of rankings,
right?
Which in turn says to me that a lot of local businesses are not very good at getting backlinks. There haven't been that many. There's not sites with new links ranking well, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or it may be that the sites who got a lot of backlinks a long time ago are the ones who are also getting new links. So winners keep winning.
Well, what about the duration of the links? The duration, like the age of the domain and the age of the links themselves.
We looked at age of domain. I believe we looked at that. I'd have to look at the data. We have 100 plus variables.
Yeah.
It's on the site where we go over the results, so you could look through it. It's in tiny print.
Oh yeah, it's a great graphic. I'm printing through it as you're talking right now. There's some fantastic data here.
Yeah, and it's really, again, we didn't publish it to say here are the top 10 things. We published it to like, here's all the data, or a high level view of it, and so start to use it to think about how you're gonna invest your resources in local SEO. As an example, one of the things that local SEOs always talk about are citations, meaning updating your listings on different directories like yellowpages.com and Yelp. And what we saw actually in a separate study, and this study kind of confirmed it, is citations are what we call foundational, meaning you need them often to be able to be eligible to rank for these queries.
Right.
Because it helps Google say, okay, this really is a plumber in San Francisco. But they are by no means an advantage.
No longer an optimization factor. They're a foundational factor.
I guess to put that in English, if you don't have citations, there's probably a good chance that, or they're screwed up, let's say,
right?
Meaning different phone numbers on different listings and stuff like that. There's a good chance you're having problems showing up in the local results. So just by fixing your citations, you have a better chance of showing up in the local results.
Correct.
However, just fixing them is not enough to increase, if you're already in the local results, to increase your ranking. You have to do other things to increase your ranking.
Got it.
Anyhow, so there's a lot of data there. I strongly encourage, rather than listen to me talk about the nuance of this stuff, you go and just read it. We try to digest it in one page so it's not an overload.
Mm-hmm. Well, you broke it out into these variables, these ordinal variables of links, of website content, of off-site signals, and on top of that, I mean, Google My Business. I mean, that is a major factor in however you cut it. And I mean, the ridiculous statement is, if you don't have that or you haven't claimed your property, my God, man, do it.
Yeah.
Do it now.
Right. And so, we basically took a crack and said, well, it was up to us. How would we prioritize our time?
Mm-hmm.
And, we made this little investment chart that's kind of a summary, and it basically shows, well, get through your citation stuff as quickly as, and your GMB stuff as quickly as you can,
mm-hmm.
and then spend the majority of your time on getting links.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make sure your website is okay, but go get links.
And that follows a writing course with organic as well. And I mean, there's no secret there, but it certainly does. I would just reinforce the point that local is following all of the patterns and footprints of where we've been in organic for such a long time.
Right. So local certainly has its own peculiarities that you need to be on top of, but it just seems like these two algorithms are on a collision course to merging.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what do you think about the kind of the aperture closing, like I discussed earlier, from a 7-pack local? We had a 10-pack at one point in time to a 7-pack to a 3-pack, and now the first place is a paid ad in local, and then you've got two others listed in organic, in local SEO organic. And now, so that opportunity to actually rank in that highly valued local space is getting smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah, I don't think the opportunity is ever going away, but it's certainly, if you're not investigating how to buy traffic, you're probably getting squeezed right now.
Yeah.
Because there's just fewer opportunities. So that's not to say, we still have some clients that get tens of millions of visits from local, right, through multi-location clients and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, you've got to just always be cognizant that, well, if there's another ad in the way, you may want to consider buying that ad and kind of owning the whole SERP or as much of the SERP. It's also, what I also see is there's also maybe a tracking issue or a data issue where and we see this all the time, where clients are they don't even understand their traffic really because of how Google's changed things. And like a concrete example is in the fall of last year, Google anchored the local 3-packs to the top of most local SERPs around the world. And so any local query or query that seems like it could be local is going to have 3 listings at the top now. And as soon as they did that, or within weeks, let's say, we got a call from a multi-location retailer who thought their organic traffic had tanked about 20%. And if you look at their analytics, in fact, it did tank about 20%. But when we looked at their Google My Business profiles, you could see that the traffic to the Google My Business profiles was up basically the same amount. And because Google had just basically shifted from showing the kind of their store locator pages on their website to showing their Google My Business pages.
So it flipped. It flipped its real estate, so to speak.
Right, and so you could say they're losing organic traffic, but you could also say, well, no, it's just sticking around on their profiles on Google.
Right. And
so they're not really losing anything. They're just losing the kind of visibility that they had into the data.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
So because for Google My Business data right now, I'm sure they'll change it at some point. For multi-locations, it's impossible to make sense of it because you have to aggregate it all together in one fell swoop, and it's a drag.
It's never easy. The multi-locations are never easy, but I think you got a handle on that one. Hey, some fun things real quick to kind of wrap up our interview with you. We noticed on the team page there that on Local SEO Guide that you have your icon. If you mouse over it, is a condescending Wonka, right? Obviously, one of the all-time greats there. Is Wonka your favorite of all those? I mean, obviously, it's showcasing there. Or do you have any other favorites that didn't cut the mustard there for your profile pic?
I've got to go with condescending Wonka. He's the gold standard.
He truly is.
Tell me one better. I don't know. I can't find it.
Well, Nate, one of our staffers, actually reflected on this, and his favorite it's the quote, "That's none of my business, though. Kermit drinking Lipton iced tea." So
I think that is a weak candidate.
Oh, Nate, you faltered there. There's some funny memes there. And you share something with us that we've got to share with the listeners here. And the first thing that you ever published on the internet was what?
So I was working at Showtime Networks, and there was this service called Prodigy, which was an early internet service that closed.
I remember the Project Engine.
Yep. And so we had a relationship with them to supply them with programming information, what's on Showtime this week. And so I got the job to upload the data to Prodigy. They had some kludgy thing you just go into and upload it, and we had a 5.6 modem or something. It was crazy. It took forever. And so the first thing I ever uploaded to Prodigy, which is the internet, was a description of a Red Shoe Diaries episode.
Yes.
I was on Prodigy.
For listeners who have never heard of that, is Showtime's basically softcore pornography sitcom or 30-minute shows. And it was something like...
And there was enough to write a summary on it?
Those are very detailed shows. I mean, that's what I've heard.
It was soft porn, so it lasts a lot longer.
Yeah.
They have to have dialogue.
It was something like a young man, is surprised when a woman jumps out of a cake at a party or something like that.
They used those cool lenses, too, that were all faded and everything.
Yeah.
Like they had a nylon over the camera lens.
Watch it, Doug. You may need a cigarette after this.
First SEO and now Red Shoes.
Oh, sexy SEO. That's where you got. Well, thanks, Drew. That I don't think we've had one of those on the show. So
that's a first.
Appreciate that candor, man. Hey, so how can people get a hold of you?
localseoguide.com/contact.
Yep.
You can hit me up on Twitter at localseoguide.com. You can email me at andrew@localseoguide.com, but please don't publish that on the internet.
And don't send Andrew any Red Shoe Diary summaries to his email. He'll flat out refuse to read them.
I don't need to read them.
You saw them all?
Excellent.
At least the first 6 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Just watch it for the storyline.
Oh, jeez. Okay, hey, Andrew, are you going to be speaking anytime soon?
We are scheduled to speak at SMX East, where we'll be presenting, Dan Leaps and I will be presenting the ranking factors again.
Oh, cool.
And I'll be speaking in Toronto at, it's a Better Business thing or something in October. I can't remember what it's called. It's Better Business. Hamilton, Canada. I'll be there.
Very good, very good. All right, well, stay in touch with us, and if you ever want to come back on the show, hey, just let us know, okay? Because local SEO is huge, and we want to be able to share this with our listeners on a regular basis. There's a lot of, I mean, just like organic, there's a lot of hit and miss things, and the waters are shifting regularly, and who knows what Google's going to give us next, right?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Andrew.